There we got it.
Okay, we are live, guys. By the way, before we get started, do you know that we have a YouTube channel that we always stream our talks? Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Who's not subscribed to our YouTube channel? Wow, we have some new subscribers today. Me and Kaushik and Salah trying to be a YouTuber. Okay, hello guys, this is our last meetup in 2022. Thanks all for coming. My name is Monash. I'm Solutions Architect and Lead Technical Trainer for AirAsia, and I have Kaushik with me, working with BlazeClan, and Salam as well, working with Seek Asia. So for people who don't know, before we do that, who's first time here? Wow. Who's still studying? We are now trying to focus as well on fresh grads. Okay, awesome. Great. Okay, so again, like I mentioned, today will be our last meetup. Next month, we will have something cool. Kaushik will share with you what we will have in the next meetup. So we have two speakers today. We have KuetTai, which will share about AWS Service-Screener. And please ask him any question you want. KuetTai working with AWS, so you can give him some feedback if you want. KuetTai will take it, right? So pass it to you, KuetTai. Let's welcome him. Yes, you'll use that one. Don't worry, I got this one.
Everyone can hear me? Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's the last crowd, and I'm quite excited to see everybody. My name is KuetTai. Everyone call me KuetTai here because I'm quite hard to pronounce for most people. I'm a senior solution architect with AWS Malaysia. Today, I'm going to share with you something called Service-Screener. Right? It's a tool that built by local team in Malaysia and used globally in some other countries. So it's a guidance tool that will help you to automate some of the checks that you might not even aware of that can help you to improve your environments. So some of these are the agenda that I'm going to share with you all today. I'm going to share with you about my journey as a software engineer before joining it. Why does it implement this service group? Next is that I'm going to cover a bit about well-architected framework. So anyone know what is that well-architected framework over here? All right, I think I'm going to spend some time to talk about that as well. And I'm going to share with you what are the challenges we face when we implementing well-architected framework. So then let's come about Service-Screener. I'm going to do some demo as well. And lastly, what is our future plan, and why I'm going to share with the future plan with everyone here is that we need people who like to contribute to this as well. And last, we're going to have a Q&A and survey. So without further ado, I started my first job as an intern in the company called as a software engineer. My day-to-day job is just getting requirements from my, the project management. You need to read something from database and display it out. Sure, I do that, right? You need to write data in database. You can do that as well. You need a best job. You want a report. I create it as well, right? I just create something that business wants and it works. So what happened in 2014, I got a point of assigned to become a team lead, become a project for a telco company in Malaysia. What happened there is that suddenly I I'm not just into the right business function, right? Things come into my head which I am prepared about. How are we going to execute the VR exercise? As a software engineer, I was like, hey, what is actually VR? But a lot of things come surprise to me. Customer asks me, when do we need to upgrade the server? Do we have enough resources for what we need right now? I don't know. During that time, I actually have no insight at all. And suddenly they talk about, hey, we want to report production access because it's not secure. Or which are we shooting, right? Because during that time, everything is just as a production function, right? To find out the patterns, to get the data, right? If my code is not designed in a way that allows me to get the right data during the error happen, it's just not going to help me, right? And pen test, all these sort of things. I have no metrics, I have no idea what am I doing wrong, right? Customer go for annual review, ask for report, right? Are we doing okay with this project? Is there anything that we need to make changes? Right? I don't have a lot of insight as a software engineer, right? Team lead, a lot of things just blinded for me. So just fast forward a bit, I just remember the question mark down there. I'm share with you why Service-Screener is helpful, can help you to make life easy in the future as well. So fast forward, I become head of the software engineer. I did the development engineer. I see a lot of repeated patterns, but all the juniors, when they join the company, they don't do best practices, they just write a code that works, right? Not write code that can scale, can help you to achieve operational excellence, these sort of things. 2019, I joined AWS. Before joining AWS, I don't know anything about cloud. I just started to manage to get into AWS, right? But I spent a year to achieve all the curve AWS certificate. So yeah. And then here we launched Service-Screener in 2021. We have a team of 3 of us, and now we have more people joining us scaling more development of service. And today I'm here at Monash to share with you all. That's a very good experience for me as well. So let's go into what is well-architected framework, right? If you never used it before, these are some of the examples. So well-architected is just a collective questionnaire that AWS collected based on our experience with our customer, right? Global customer, we know that there's a lot of best practices that we do what we want to ask. We want to ask this question to the customer, or you yourself to see that are you doing the right things? Are you setting up the best practices according to a certain guideline, right? And for example, a simple one. Have you turned on the root account MFA? Right? If you're a bank account today, you are forced to turn on that MFA because just for security sake, right? Same for AWS environment. Of course, we don't force you to enable MFA, simple things like that. But this question will actually help you to identify this best practice. Are you doing it the right way? So you look at this is just one section. It's about 6 questions over there. It takes a lot of time to actually go through all the sections one by one. And this is just one section. You see the left-hand side there, there's actually about 11 sections for security, right? Let's not talk about this. Just to share with you, the well-architected pillar is not just security pillars, right? We have 6 pillars over here. How do we achieve operational excellence in a way that everything can be more automated, right? Your software engineer or your developers can focus on the right things instead of troubleshooting, finding out more data like the question I asked you. Even more, right? During that the chemical time. So how can we make sure that there's a bit of question for operational excellence? You need to answer that. By answering that, you will notice that there might be a lot of gap for you to perform the changes and improvement. So these are the 6 pillars of your architected framework, right? If you don't know, you can actually just go to AWS account today. If you don't have the sign up one, because your architected framework is free. Just type well-architected in the console, and you can see the list of questions over there. So what are the challenges here? This is just a bunch of well-architected tools, is a bunch of questionnaires. However, I spoke to multiple customers. Every customer has different understanding on certain questions, right? So they might think that they achieve all the best practices, but then when we challenge further, they actually not, right? So these are some of the misalignment here. Second thing is that performing this well-architected framework is good, it's beneficial for customers. Think about it, you're going to take about roughly about 2 to 4 hours per pillars. You got 6 pillars, right? If you just focus on 2 pillars, for example, security and cost, which is the most common pillars that customers are paying high attention to. Right? It will take me about easily 4 to 8 hours just to complete these 2 sections per time. Now, these are just performing the question and answering the question to find out the data about without you following the best practices. After that, you identify the gap, some of the fixes you need to take weeks to finish it if you full force putting resources into making those changes. So that you make sure that you are cost optimized and secure, you can monitor your staff properly, so on and so forth. Now, the subsequent challenge is that not all people know about end-to-end or AWS services and the services. You might use certain service like Lambda, like our serverless tools, or serverless service that you want to put your content it works, but you never know that whether I'm doing it right? So some of us might have lack skill how to perform certain things after you identify the issue, but you're not going to this. How can I fix it? Get confused. Lastly, few things that is that we don't know what is the impact if you make certain changes. Right? Are we going to incur more bill at the end of the month? They can come to a surprise to us as well. Another thing is that if we don't change whatever, right? AWS didn't think that AWS just expect it that this is high risk method. What is high risk? Right? We don't even know. So more time well-related tools, although it does help you, but a lot of things we are not sure of it. And we're not sure about most people is actually relevant. Maybe you come up with top 10 activities and we decided to work on it next week, but somehow this particular activity took you about 2 weeks just to do research instead of just to make changes. Right? So it's hard for you to have to prioritize your changes as well. So Service-Screener come to aim to solve all this problem by running a script that actually executes for about 2 to 5 minutes. And it's free, just execute it, there's a report coming up for you and tell you that it's more. What are things that you should prioritize, right? If you're focusing on cost, what are the things that you can do immediately? So these two are actually created by myself locally, and Sarika that actually went to, it used to be a SA in Malaysia, but she went to London, and got CY as well. Used to be our AWS contract. So let me just go to do a demo. Quick one. So the output of the Service-Screener is just a list of HTML files, right? So everyone can just open up in your web browser. What does it look like? This is the manifest. We tell you that how many security finding has been identified on the operation of Accenture, for example, and how many high, how many medium there, or etc. Well, on the left-hand side there, currently Service-Screener is getting based on services. Right? If you look at this particular EC2, it's a bunch of check that actually tell you that I'm going to take an example. I have 6 DBS not being encrypted. Let's just check it out. And then I can tell that I want to look for cost saving, for example. Just go down here, look for cost saving. There's a bunch of cost saving activities that we will perform. Right? And look for security example. And then we can filter by criticality as well. But this can help you to prioritize what are the things that you should do right now, right? If it's a high security activities. Like for example, your security group is open to all, right? It does provide some descriptions, and you can click on the resources. It actually jump you, bring you to the particular security group and share with you what are the current settings. Instead of you to go through all the console one by one just to find out which security group set and why is it like up. So currently it supports these 5 services here, right? For the services. EC2, IAM, RDS, and S3. Why we focus on these 4 services? Because according to our data and utilization in Malaysia, right, these are the 4 common services that mostly used by people in Malaysia. So how do we run it? This particular tool is available in AWS Center, right? You can just go to AWS Center and search for Service-Screener. And there's a few instructions down here for you to run. Right? First of all, I hope everyone familiar with AWS screen. This is the console after you log in. Then we have to go to I just want to show you. Let's say I started in Singapore region, right? Singapore is our closest region to Malaysia. So I go to Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is a service that allows you to write any CLI script. You can run any commands that does begin with any AWS library, so you don't need to install third-party dependency just to run AWS CLI. So we got Cloud Shell, we need to leverage on Cloud Shell to run this service screener, and it's free. Now, Cloud Shell does not, it's not available in Singapore region, but it doesn't matter, right? Service screener is just to spread data on the configurations of your AWS account. So you can literally run in any region. For example, I go to the Sydney region because it's closer to Singapore region. It takes about 30 seconds to set up the Cloud Shell environment. Cloud Shell itself is a container behind the scene, right? So you can do everything here. It's not stateful. So if you disconnect it, you get a new Cloud Shell again. While waiting, if you want to, you can just search up the GitHub and service screener to look at some of the description if you want to. Yeah, while waiting for the Cloud Shell to spin up, right? These are a simple well-architected framework look like, right? You can create a well-architected questionnaire, and you can look at the lenses. Now, there's multiple lenses there. These are the common lenses. You have serverless lenses, you got analytic lenses, you got financial institutional lenses, and they ask you different questions. So, for example, I want to show you that I can look into security pillars. Right, I can go to section 1. And you can look at that. These are some of the question available. There are how do you manage your identity and people and machine, for example. There are different lists of questions. And then to understand what are these questions actually mean, there is a long list of descriptions over there. So it's going to take a lot of time if your first time try to answer this survey. Right? But it does help you to think about is there any gap that you can improve. So this is Cloud Shell. The Cloud Shell environment is ready. So to run it, we just need to install script. Copy. And behind the scene, the programming language is actually running on PHP. So once we install the dependency, right, we just need to set an alias. And we can start scanning. Give me a second. The thing come up. So how does it work is that you look at the screen here, you just need to type screening. You supply the AWS region ID over there. You start scanning the resource over there. Right? If you want to supply multiple regions, you can do so. Right? You want to support Singapore and North Virginia. This is how you do it. And if you just want to run particular service, right, you can just read this way. You scan for IDS and I see of the entire core service set. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm just going to run this. And you can see that the things are start looking into all your resources and looking into all your configurations and start to provide the recommendation and try to see any misconfiguration over there. And each of the resource being scanned out is you actually print it out here. This, for my account, it roughly took about less than 2 minutes to complete the entire scan. So the more resource you have, the more effective compute. Now this is actually, I would say, execute in parallel in a way that parallel in terms of service. If I got EC2, IAM, and RDS, actually 3 threads to scan all the different services. So the outcome of this scan will give you an output zip file, right? The output zip file in the end of the day, give you resulting in this HTML format, which I just run the scan. This particular report, I got it since just now 3 p.m. I think I do a quick run. So let's just wait for it. Got a lot of IAM row and shoot bucket away. should have to do some more first. Right. So when the scan finish, it should tell you that how many resources being scanned and roughly how many rules has been executed to to evaluate all these resources or 600 of rules have been done just within 2 minutes. Instead of manually go through the questionnaire to check whether you have done certain things or not, that's a lot more time consuming in comparison. So once you've done it, you can just copy this part, right, and then go to action and download. So you're going to report within your environment. Now, all this scanning AWS does not have access to it because in the end of the day, it's just a HTML file download to your local PC. Got it? Then you can do a review and can do a prioritization accordingly. So that's all for the quick demo. Just want to share with you here that again. With Service-Screener, right, we eliminate the first thing that we standardize the understanding. You no longer have to guess or try to understand what is actually asking about. You are actually comply with the best practice. But you don't have to second guess yourself, right? The tools will actually tell you whether you've done it, right? And whether it's the right way. And time consuming, just so you can see that I run the scan, it takes me less than 5 minutes to scan the entire reports instead of go through one by one. So we managed to solve that. A perform fix might take time, depends on your skill set and the impact of the particular result. Right. Later on, let me just go back to the report and share with you the features on the report as well. So we lack of skill to perform, right? All the particular scan just now, all the findings actually just provide external guidance on the screen to actually help you to bring you to the right patch so that you don't need to go and organize, find out what are the changes required, right? So there's an external technology as well. We does have multiple areas of impact provided. I forgot to show you on the demo. I can share with you again after this slide. We also unsure about the damage if no change was made, right? All these are highlighted in the description as well. Unsure the effort required. There are there's a button on the filter that I'm going to share again. You click on that button to show you what the law, right? What does law hanging fruit means? If you make the changes, no downtime required, no cost incurred, for example. Right? No performance impact as well. So you can just check on that, then you can apply the change immediately. And can help you to prioritize as well, right? If you want to prioritize security or based on the criticalities as well, we just have the feature as well. So just want to share with you some of our future plan. As our team growing in Malaysia, right? We just have an internal team to help to do all these things, but that Malaysia community can willing to contribute to this public report as well. So our Q1 activities is that we want to add more core services, like for example, to support Lambda, API Gateway, Kafka, all these core services that people are using. And whatever finding that we have just now, we are going to make it raw JSON out, right? So that you can use it for your own events if you want to do your own programming. We also plan to have custom patch like Q2, right? Like for example, just now you look at it, it's just put by services, right? It's not very insightful for certain reasons. So we want to do custom patch like security patch only, right? For global concern about security. Or some of the top 10 activities that you can do immediately, right? Instead of go through service by service. We want to add more core service like EKS, ECS, Elastic Cache as well. And one of the things that we also want to have the option to move this report to S3 bucket if you don't mind, right? Because a lot of time customers download the report, they want to share with a partner or a consultant, but sharing with each other can be confusing. I mean, my lost track of the file and things like that. So if you want to go to S3 bucket directly, you can view the report straight away from public S3 bucket as well. So we want to integrate with QuetTai as well, so that you can generate multiple versions of snapshots. Let's say January you run one time, make some changes. February you run again, you want to see the difference, like what changed. So we want to automate that for you as well. I think the crowdfund and S3 one is quite similar with the previous one. The third one is that we want to support multiple accounts, right? Currently, Service-Screener can only support one account. So if you have multiple accounts today, you have like 50 over accounts today, you want to run for each environment, you have to go through one by one and manage. And lastly, we have some backlog. We want to support AWS organization scan as well. And we want to create a COI script on the fly. Like for example, just now, although we bring you to the right documentations for solving certain items, right? We want to generate the COI. So you don't have to go to console and click on the go through the complicated process. So we aim to have the COI script where you can copy paste and run it in PowerShell as well. Things will change. We like to create public content as well. How do you integrate with CI/CD pipeline? Right, so that when you deploy into production, you can run Service-Screener script with the JSON output. You can identify whether you should go ahead with the deployment or you will review first. So these are some of the things that we hope the community can help us answer. So before Q&A, just want to go back to the output as well. There's one button here, show low-hanging fruit, right? Just click on it. These are the items that you can do immediately without impacting your view, without requiring downtime. So how do we find out the impact, right? For example, let me just say, for example, this one. He will show you that if you do this activity, you have downtime, right? Changing this, there's no label means to say you are set to go. There's no downtime, no cost impact, no performance impact, no slowness. Let's check some of the things. The example here, but we do have recommendation here, so you can click on it, you'll bring you to the right press, so that you don't need to go around the patch of the web to find the right data or the right action to do. So yeah, without before I end this section, right, I need you all to get this and provide some feedback. You see whether this type of section that is helpful to you, or what type of section you're looking for, or are you looking for more different type of content, right? We definitely like that. So that AWS team, in 2023, we can be more prepared and provide you more relevant insight that can benefit you. So yeah, I'm going to pause it for 30 seconds, right? Then I can pass it to Koshik. I will still be here if you have any questions, right? Can your questions. Your question over there.
Hi, I'm Sujay. I was curious, what's the difference between Service-Screener and inspector or AWS Service-Screener?
Sure, I can answer that. So Farid actually asked about what is the difference between Service-Screener versus AWS Trusted Advisor or Inspector, right? Is that a question? Okay, I got a question. Right. So first of all, let's address about Inspector first. AWS Inspector is actually looking into your OS. If you're having a Linux system, for example, or Windows server, right? You look into that environment to look for any outdated patches or misconfiguration inside there. Right? It's nothing to do with your environment setup, your AWS environment. Actually go into the host and look into the vulnerability as inspected. Now, secondly, Trusted Advisor is similar, right? It's similar. The difference is that Trusted Advisor, a lot of checks are not enabled by default. Right? In order to leverage on all the check, customer has to sign up for business support. Okay, and some of the check here are more customized in a way that we have more checks that are not available in Trusted Advisor. Then we gather, we harness from through our experience with customers, we put it in, and we can deploy fast. Right? Things that we need to be, we found out new check, we can straight away deploy. Unlike Trusted Advisor, we have to wait for the whole sector, right? For them to deploy. Yeah, answer your question. And one thing about Service-Screener is a snapshot, right? It's a point in time you have to run it. Trusted Advisor, whereas it's continuous scanning, you can do an event breach over there. It suddenly become high. You want to get notified. Right? It's more active compared to Service-Screener.
Anyone else?
Sure.
Is it safe to assume that this is similar to other paid versions like Cloud Conformity or Cloud Health, but it's open source and it's free?
Definitely, I would say yes to the second part of the answer first, right? For the first part, you asked about whether is it similar to Cloud Conformity and Cloud Health, right? I would say they are more mature, but they have been in the market for a long time, right? Of course, we need to pay for it, right? But Service-Screener is free tools. And if we want to continuously contribute together, we can do this beautiful and benefit everyone in the market.
So a follow-up to that, right? So basically, to run this, what kind of 3 questions? What kind of access do you need? Second is to run this, what is the cost involved, right? So to do this on your cloud shell, it should be other services like Config and others. On an average, what would be the cost to do a particular scan?
I don't get your last question, but let me address the first two first. Not too many questions, I should hopefully manage the question. So your first question is about what is the permission required, right? You only require read-only permissions. There is, if you don't know, if you're not configured what else permission required, the first thing in the service screener, first step is to teach you how to configure the right permissions. It's only read-only permission required. And secondly, is this is before I go to the second question, right? Cloud Shell embedded your IAM user permission. As long as your IAM can perform certain read activities on the scan, then you are safe to run. So second question is, what is the cost incurred, right? Cloud Shell is free too, right? Everyone can just use it. Now, of course, you are right. There might be some scan that average cost, right? Things like we are scanning your CloudWatch activities. We are pulling your CloudWatch data to see whether, example, is your DC2 even active in the past 2 weeks, right? From there, we can provide you and advise, hey, you might need to shut down this server because you are starting it up and you never use it. So depending on the cost, right? I think CloudWatch cost per scan, 1,000 scan is about 1 cent, roughly about that. So you should be probably free if you just run it like that. Like based on my environment, I run multiple times, still falling on the page. What's the question again? So,
To understand what are the services that is used in backend, is it just CloudWatch, or do you also have access to conflict roles and numbers?
Sure. So this actually just requires AWS CLI to run AWS describe functions, describe the EC2, describe the IDS, then from there we do the details that can benefit you. So nothing much besides the CloudWatch. We don't access any other thing. So that's why we need only read only permission to describe all the resources.
Thanks.
2 questions back to back. Okay, so bear with me. I think this is great, and I like the fact that you are searching for contributors. So you are searching for contributors, right? Cool. Then I think like some people might ask, how to contribute in the correct way to this repository. That's number 1. Number 2 is for sure to write this type of capabilities, you will need some resources to be up and running, right? Which will cost you money. So as a contributor, you are not just spending your time, you will be spending your money. So is there anything that AWS is doing to help people contribute?
Okay, so answer your first question, right, is because the report is in public, you can always copy it and re-approve request. I'm the one who's going to do manual review right now to machine. Now you ask a very important question. In order to create new scanning, you need to simulate the environments, right? So there's a cost there. I don't have any good answer for that yet. So then we definitely can work it out after the meeting. We can discuss about it.
So you told that there will be a support for multiple accounts in the future. So if I have my AWS organization set up and there are multiple accounts, so is that something I will run in the root account and then it will be kind of assume role? And, can you just give an idea for that?
Yeah, that is the rough idea. We plan to, the initial idea right now is not very solid yet, but the high level idea that I'm thinking about is you need to be, when you run service screener, you need to pass in all maybe like this or JSON form, which account ID and what you assume. Then you automatically assume all this wrong. That is a high level idea. Of course, we try to make it as seamless as possible because by doing so, you need to do a lot of work there to do the preparation, to do the mapping on the work. Right? We still figuring out. That's why we put it in. Yeah, it's on the backlog. We plan to do it by end of next year for that particular features. Any more questions? There's question. Oh yeah, well, people are doing Q&A. Fill out the survey, yeah.
Is there like any downside strategies? And also the capability of having these reports pre-scheduled rather than waiting for the 5 minutes. You can set like usually previous reports. And also if there is any plan, instead of having this information, just have this stuff, like having some action button, if you report it, it's basically gonna fix with this.
Okay, I don't get the first question about the GUI, but again, I would like to answer the remaining question first, right? So I get confused. I lost it. Sorry, I'm going to repeat the second question again.
Basically, having the capability to
Schedule.
schedule.
Right. So in order to run this, you just need to have PHP. You can actually run your contract and run screen every schedule every month, every week. That.
The third one is about
One click button. I don't tend to do that because people want, I need people to review why the impact, right? When you make certain changes. Like some of them are even in course or have downtime. If it's a production environment and just click the button, mistake, accidentally, you might create business impact. And to do so, with one click button to perform certain action, it also means that you need to provide certain type of secret key and access key to the script in order for you to now. So there might be security breach over there. For now, in this upcoming 1 year, we are not planning to do that. But what I mentioned just what we plan is that we do provide you the script straight away. We copy paste and run it. So that if we review yourself and you execute yourself.
The first question is basically why not wrapping instead of going to the cloud, going into the page where you need to copy the script. Why not wrap that in some AWS service, have some configuration, and just have that a little bit easier than the current way.
So you were asking that why not we just make it to one of the AWS services, right?
Yeah.
We hope we can. We hope we can. It's a pipeline. So we are building the interest and see the benefits of, does it benefit you as a customer? We need more than a point. So see to make it even to a service level. But it's a long journey, right? In order to make other things to become a service. Good idea. We definitely like to explore that. Of course, you don't need a crowd shell to run this script, but as long as you have a local environment that has PHP, so right, you can run this already. But provided you configure your environments, you have the right permissions, the read-only permissions to access all these scans. Hope I answer you.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Ashik, pass on to you. More. So I hope you all the survey and thank you. For anything else, I will be somewhere here for you to chat as well.
Thank you so much, KuetTai. That was how people can reach out to you if they have a question. LinkedIn, guys. There you go. Okay, so we have now some hiring announcements. So every meetup, usually we take like 5 to 7 minutes. Just who's hiring in their companies. I know now a lot of people hiring. So Salam, want to start first? Yeah. So Salam, they have a cool program. So about it now. Yeah. Shares. Never read out these guys.
Never mind. I will not share. So in general, my name is Salam, engineering manager for this startup within PHP. I already have a big team that is mostly from consultancy. And right now, unfortunately, we can see replacing some of those consultants with internal roles. So I have around 18 roles with them. Most of them will be on mobile application, but I also have backend roles with them. All levels from principal engineers, senior engineer, mid-level engineers, and even engineers. So that's number one. I also help other teams in seek finding hires here in Malaysia. So I have assistants that are searching for people with DevOps skills. We don't call them DevOps engineers, we call them software engineers. But they build our internal open source systems. So we have an internal open source policy that's very interesting and exciting if you like platform engineering. And we have other non-technical roles, C non-technical roles. So we have business analysts, should be technical, but they don't write code. And we have also product roles, for example, product managers. Yeah, there's a lot of roles. My name is Abdul Salam. Find me on LinkedIn and reach out to me if you are interested in applying. The last one is very interesting for people who are fresh, junior. Seek have a program which is called Fresh Grants or Grad Connect. What we do is that we offer people with fresh experience and access to apply for some position that open to a specific amount of positions every year. This year on 15th of February, we opened those shops. It will be available on those three places for interested people like that. Once it's open, what happened is that we receive applications, we test them, and then for those people who are excited to join us, we give them the ability to have a boot camp for 1 month in Seek, and then there will be hired employees for 1 year, where they will choose to join a team. They will have a chance also to switch that team. So we don't force them and put them in a team. We give them the chance to see what are the development needs, whether it's mobile, whether it's backend content, or anything else. And yeah, after 1 year, they can eventually again switch to another team. So this is everything that I have. A lot of roles open. Even all of engineers, we have other roles, but if you are interested, just reach out.
Maybe we share the QR code at the end if you guys gonna. Yeah. What's the QR code about? So they can.
For
Okay. Okay. And you can guys join us on Facebook as well. We will upload everything over there. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else, guys, wanna? Okay, Sujay.
Hey, my name is Sujay Pillai. I work for Accenture, and my team is looking for cloud solution architects and cloud engineers. And maybe if you're fresh out, so just reach out to me. I will share my link.
Okay, or reach out to him after his talk.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick. German company, we do digital links trade. Actually have an office just down the road, it's in Geo. We do, everything digital radiography related, where we have customers in various industries, oil and gas, aerospace, space. So companies like Rolls-Royce, SpaceX, Petronas. We write software for them. And basically, we do it all. We do a bit of AWS. Primarily, we do C++, which I know is a niche here in Malaysia. But we're open to hiring anyone. Most importantly, is how you like to code. So, yeah, if it sounds interesting to you, just catch me after the next presentation. And just a plug while I've got on the mic. I'm actually the organizer of C++ Malaysia Meetup. And we probably had our first, very first meetup in March here as well.
Oh, our community.
So please join the group. Yeah.
Do you bring pizza like us?
I think I'll have to do that.
We have a competition now.
Thank you.
Hello, happy Thursday. My name is JX Chen. I just got the KuetTai and just formed JX Partners Space in Microsoft. We're hiring crypto and blockchain enthusiasts in the development space. So hit me up, JX Chen. Find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. Okay, see you guys. Thanks.
My name is Gulam. I'm from Tata Consultancy Services. Yeah, we have a number of questions in AWS and Node.js. Just check looking into the Tata Consultancy Services from this page. We share the news.
Right. Now you guys did.
Thanks to those teams. Fantastic. Yeah, really thanks.
Awesome. Always good to see new faces. And by the way, guys, you can post it as well on Facebook if you wanna get more traction for all you guys hiring. We have a lot of how many members we have on Facebook? A lot now, right? 4,000, 3,000, 4,000, yeah. Okay, so next, how do you speak at our meetups, right? You can scan this QR code, fill out the information. We do look at any level, guys. It's not supposed to be like super advanced. from beginner to super advanced. If you need help with your slides, with your public speaking, please reach out to us. We can help you as well with that. So I will leave it a bit here. You can scan it. Oh, by the way, we introduced something called Lighting Talk. We didn't have one at all yet, but I heard today we have one, right? So what is Lighting Talk? It's, so usually we have two main talks, right? And Lighting Talks will be like 5 minutes maximum. So anything maybe you try some new service you want to share with us. Maybe you have some cool memes about cloud, you can share it as well with us. So please, if you have any idea, if you want to practice your public speaking, you don't want to give like 20, 30 minutes talk, you can take these 5 minutes and practice with it as well. Okay? So I'll leave it here if you want to scan it for a few seconds. Okay. I'll pass it to Kaushik. Kaushik will share with us some of the cool stuff we did and we will do. So
Thank you. Thank you. This is more of a celebration of what we have done so far this year. More of a view of what we have achieved and what we would like to do as well. So quick one, some stats for you. A total of 10 events for online, which was during the pandemic lockdown period. And then ever since we started to be online, and thanks to Monash this round, where they have sponsored for the venue and space, a cool space for all of us to be in. So, and then we have had 8 webinars, which has gone live on our page. Thanks to Tony, who has done those webinars and streamed into the Facebook page, right, for us, and it's available for everyone. We had a total of 26 different speakers from 5 different countries, especially during the pandemic when we were online. We had people from Australia, India, Dubai giving talks, and that's been something that we wanted to call out. And a cumulative attendance of 600 plus through the year, I think that's also a round of applause, where that's something which is not used nowadays. And the average attendance being plus. No, I was speaking when we did that we had 120, and even today, I think the number saying that we have towards a year and many people here on holidays already, and we have a good number here. So what next and what you should expect from? So taking the cue from how Amazon does, this is what we have brought from December 2023. There is a show called Working Backwards. That's what AWS and Amazon do, right? So they call out saying that this is the aim, and we want to work backwards from it to achieve that. So this is something that we would like to press release in December 23 and achieve all of these things come that time, right? So we want to, strongly say that we are studying technology community. We are partnered with 4 universities. Here you already see one happening with Monash, and we want to grow that to many more universities in the coming year and enable the student community with cloud adoption. The Monash and other universities have a lot of tech groups. We want to enable them to see how they can adopt cloud, right? And start that young, not just people who are in the industry, but even from folks who are students and coming out fresh. Following that, we want to also focus with partnerships with other community groups, PHP Meetups, or various others, that we can have some focused approach and grow the network for growth and not pollinate ideas. That's something that we would like, right? And one thing that we would like to call out is we would like to do the AWS Community Day. So for those who are not aware, so this one is a community event done by the community for the community, right? So where we would get together, we would try to organize this. It would be a day-long, a 2-day-long activity. We will be calling out for papers. The CFPs will be going out. We'll have speakers who can come in globally, give the talks, and have sponsors and so on and so forth. A large-scale event to be done, and that's something that we're planning in the next 2 quarters. And and followed up with events like hackathons, focused on tech for good, career days, in conjunction with universities, AWS partners and other employees who want to hire, have career days as well. And then also practice something which is more into DEI. which is into diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is not just from the audience. Today, we take pride to say that we have a diverse audience already, which was not the case 12 months ago, right? So now that we are growing in, and that is something that we would like to happen with a larger team that we are planning to grow, with the audience, with the speakers, and everywhere, right? So that's a motto of the user group. And finally, to do all of this, what we mentioned, we would like to grow our team of volunteers as well. So we are targeting to grow the team of volunteers to 6 members as part of the team, which is currently there, to make all of this happen in the coming year. So that's something. And finally, because of all of this, we want to win the best user group award next year. This year in Philippines won, but next year it has to be in Malaysia. So let's make that happen. And that's going to happen in So basically, out of this, what we are looking for is volunteers, as I said. So the ask is from the members who are passionate about contributing to the community. It's a volunteer thing. Me, Mo, Salam have been doing this out of our day jobs voluntarily to make an impact, because we gain a lot out of it, which I'll share some of the learnings. And that's something that we want someone who's passionate about the community come and join us as volunteers. So basically, we want who are doers, who have ideas, who can come and execute with us. And of course, age, gender, professional or personal background is who are. We are looking out for students who can build communities. We are looking for CXOs who can help us build the community in the CXO level. And of course, the rules and activities, this is just a quick gist, but there's much more, many more activities that we can do. Here, event coordination, venue starting, helping organizing large events that I mentioned, social media management, and many others. And one person to multiple hats as well. That's something that we three and Gohar have been doing so far. And what is in it for you as a volunteer? I have a complete slide to just showcase on that, right? So help build your network. This is something which is highly underrated, right? That's something that's the biggest asset someone can have, a network to help you now and in the future. And experience of going from migration to execution, getting things done, right? You will see that materializing quickly because we are very agile, we are not an organization, we can actually do it. And a lot of brand building for yourself. And of course, apart from that, there are other materialistic things and joys that we all train for today is swags, getting invites for reinvents, right? Getting invited for the ASEAN Community Summit that happened in Bangkok this year. So all of that happens to us when we organize. AWS takes an opportunity to recognize these volunteers and invites them for these things and rewards these things. So that's something that you will get. But apart from that, you also get the eligibility to apply. This is one way, this is not the only way, but this is one way for you to be eligible to be a AWS Community Builder. If you are a part of the partner network, you can be an ambassador. If you fulfill your criteria. And then the final one is the AWS Heroes as well, which is a path after the Community Builder. Right? So these are a few things that you can achieve. And last but not the least, you will be giving back to the community that you thrive in. And I think that's the most important part for all of us. So for those who are interested, think you have colleagues, friends, family who would be interested to volunteer, please share this QR code or the link. We want volunteers who are interested and like to participate actively with us. We will reach out to you early January with all the entries that we receive. And I would like to take that forward. I'll leave that for another 30 seconds. All right. And we'd like to take a minute, and that's what I wanted to share, but I would like to take a minute. Salam, if you could step ahead. So our co-organizer, Salam, has decided to go on from this role that he's been playing for a long, long time as part of the core team. And as a note of appreciation from the co-organizers and the extended team and the community, we would like to thank you for all the efforts you've done so far. And a huge number of you certainly to be part of the community. So thank you. And yeah.
To share Salam, he's the one actually who started the streaming. We started the YouTube channel. We really improved our community a lot, but he doesn't like us anymore. So
Thanks a lot. Actually, what makes this group great is you guys, not us, right? It would never be anything if we don't have speakers, we don't have great attendees, and if we don't have passion to learn and passion to work. So thanks you.
awesome. Thanks, Salam.
So thanks, Salam. So next up is the slot for lightning talks. So we have one lightning talk speaker ready for you. The guest who will be sharing a few thoughts of his. But the floor is going to be open for anyone else to come and share something that you're doing on AWS platform, some of your experience. It has to be, it can be impromptu, nothing that you need to prepare for. Feel happy to share. Over to you.
This is our first try for the lightning talk. So you guys welcome to give us feedback as well.
You guys, I need to do a little bit of setup. So I actually made slides for lightning talk because I got supposed to. How many use days does it take to figure out the wording? Yeah, I need to start with this. I'm going to leave that up for 30 seconds, not a QR code. So, all opinions expressed are my own and not those of my current employer or my past ones. So hey guys, I'm thinking, you may know me. I've been in and around the community for a while, but pretty new to the AWS universe. And I've noticed that near the end, just like today, Coach will come up and say, hey guys, does anybody want to share some tips with the community? And nobody really wants to share their tip, even though it's just a tip. And I got thinking, why is that? Why does nobody want to share? Why don't I want to share? And it's because I'm shy. I mean, if I come up here in front of you guys and I want to share my tip, I better have a big tip, right? And not everybody has a big tip. Some people have small tips, and there's nothing wrong with having a small tip. In fact, I have a small tip. And today, I want to share my small tip with everybody here. My small tip is static website hosting on S3. Now, I know this is a very small tip. You've seen it before, you probably saw a little bit of it at AirAsia, but it's really important because often I see people with this server setup. 3 servers, one is for your database, one's for your API, one's for your front end. Maybe you have something like this, or maybe you have this, right? But there's a better way. You can probably host everything on S3. Now, S3 gives you some really cool things right out of the box. First of all, one less server to deal with, so you don't have to worry about patch management, virus scans, anything like that. The other thing is CI/CD is really easy. Your CI/CD pipeline becomes drag and drop. The other cool thing about S3 is
that it's a regionally resilient service, which means that instead of having to put one server in every single availability zone, just put on S3 and it becomes regionally resilient. Yeah. The other cool thing about that is if you power something like run CDN, it'll actually bring all your static website assets closer to your end user, which makes it faster, improves the time to first byte, and it's kind of like having global resilience for free, kind of. Not really, but kind of. The other advantage of doing this, which is obvious, is less servers, which means less cost. So I checked, I went to the AWS calculator, I found the cheapest EC2 instance, and it was about $6. So 6 times 3 is like $18 a month just for a simple high availability website. Now, even if I'm being generous, and it's probably going to be free to host your website, but let's assume 50%, right? Saving $8 to $9 a month may not be a lot of money for a lot of people, but I hear nowadays for $8 a month, you can become a pretty important person on the internet. Now, look, I know what you're thinking. I don't have a personal website. I'm a big company, right? I got a blog. I got, a lot of people follow me. I've got an e-commerce site. Maybe I use PHP. I got something like WordPress. But even WordPress that needs a database and all that has plugins, which will let you turn your entire e-commerce site, entire blog into static websites and put it on S3. But maybe you're like, okay, I'm a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm Reddit. Actually, in 2020 and 2021, Reddit released a blog post where they talked about using static site generation, or ISR, for Next.js. And they were actually generating a large portion of their website just so that they could put on S3 and CloudFront and save a bunch of costs. So whether you're hosting a personal site, whether you're a multi-billion-dollar company, whether you're using a framework that requires a database, you can probably take advantage of this little small tip. So guys, that's my small tip for today. I thought maybe I'd come here every month, maybe, and share my tip with you guys. So I took what I learned and I made a little blog. Maybe we can call it a micro blog. And you can come check it out every month. And if you want to check it out, you can just go to mysmalltip.com. Thanks, guys.
The question is it hosted on S3? Obviously. Okay, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's already there. I just need to move this one. Can I get some space over here?
Okay, great. So we have our chair. We have our next speaker, who's lately being very active in the community, Sujay. We'll be talking about how you run container from desktop to Amazon ECS. So I'll pass it to you.
Yep. Hello, check. Hey, hello everyone. Hello. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Monash. Thanks for Sheikh and Salam for to give me a chance to talk into this AWS community group. Just to introduce me, my name is Sujay Pillai. I work as a cloud advisory manager for Accenture, and I'm also a Docker captain and a Docker community leader, which gave me a chance to become also a AWS community builder also. So I am a community builder in the container track, and that's specifically, if you see, the talk is again on containers today. So I'm going to show you how you can start your container journey with the Docker Desktop tool, and then move on to your journey to any of the cloud. Specifically in this case, I will talk about how to move your containers from your local development environment to Amazon ECS. Okay. So the agenda for today would be like, I would cover basically an introduction about Docker Desktop, what the tool is about, and then walk you through like the Amazon ECS, certain features, basic definitions, and then give you a live demo how it can work from your Docker Desktop to the Amazon ECS instance. So just a quick raise of hand, who here have used Docker Desktop first? Okay, great. Do you know about the feature you can directly move your containers from your Docker desktop to ECS? Anyone who is aware of it, have used it in the great. So for persons who are new to Docker desktop or the container technology itself, so when you start your container journey, basically Docker desktop is the tool mostly you will come across to start your development things and start working with. So Docker Desktop basically started as a community tool. It's still a community version, but recently Docker did announce about certain paid features also. But if you are working in an open source community, the tool is absolutely free for you. But if you're a big part of an organization, there is certain license to be paid, but that's up to your company to take care of. But being an open source developer, it's always a free tool for you. So that's what I'm using, the free tool over here, and it has basically an integration like with various two different cloud service providers mainly, but it's how it helps you to build Docker images on your Docker desktop on your local machine, and then store it on your machine and then push to Docker Hub, which is kind of a central repository where you can store your images, Docker images, which you have built, and share with the community members also. And then there are certain new features which are available recently with Docker Desktop. Mostly it's called dev environments, where you can package the whole your development environment, including the software libraries and tools as a development environment, and share it on the Docker Hub as an image, and you share it with your team, pull down that image, and the software development is available for you just in click of a Docker command. And then there are certain new features like extensions, where you basically package up certain tools as extensions, and it's available directly into the Docker Desktop. So if you see on the left-hand side, there is a way to add extensions over there. So that's basically, again, containers running on the tool itself, which helps your development cycle. And other than that, it has also support for latest Kubernetes version. So by click of a button, you can enable Kubernetes, which runs locally on your machine. And if you want to kind of do enhanced development on containers, that's where Kubernetes comes in. And if you are working on a Windows machine, there is a way to switch between Linux and Windows containers, basically, which are different things. So the machine what I'm using right now is a Ubuntu machine. And lately, Docker has released a Docker Desktop version for Linux also. So that's supported right now. So basically, Docker Desktop is basically built on the client server architecture, where there is a Docker engine running on your machine, and you use the CLI tool to talk to the Docker engine. And Docker engine is the main mind, I would say, brain behind it, which does all the heavy lifting for you. So like when you build a Docker image or something, when you run your containers, is everything executed on the Docker engine. So these are some of the features, which is basically BuildX, where BuildX helps you to build multi-architecture images on your machine. Let's say you are working on a Linux machine, you can build images for Raspberry Pi-based images, different architectures and other things. Docker Scan basically allows you to scan your images for any vulnerabilities or other things. It is a basic integration of sync, which is available by default. And then there is SBOM, which is a new feature, which is a kind of bill of materials. What you have packaged up in your Docker image, you can kind of validate it against when you download it from any Docker repository. And the main two features what we are going to target today is Docker Compose and Docker Context. So that is the basic features in the Docker Desktop, which helps it to talk to other cloud service provider or other Docker engine also. So you as a, when you have installed Docker Desktop on your machine, there is a way to connect to remote Docker engines also. So basically that's possible because of Docker Compose and Docker Context. Let me start with Docker Compose. So Docker Compose basically started initially as a built-in tool, which was provided by Docker itself, and it was basically written in Python language. It came as a binary, standalone binary, which you would install on top of your Docker installation. Later on, when the container technology got matured, so the big companies like Microsoft and Amazon got interested into that feature, and they wanted to integrate it with their services. So that's where the whole Docker Compose specification was rewritten. And basically we are using Docker Compose V2 version, which is a whole rewrite of the Python-based application written newly on Golang. So that is Docker Compose. And Docker Context is basically you're pointing your Docker client to talk to a remote thing, remote Docker engine. So I just briefly talked about this all things. So if you see on my screen, when you have a Docker desktop installed, you are basically interacting with the Docker engine through the Docker CLI. And the Docker CLI using the Docker Compose and the context feature, you can able to talk to a Docker engine which is running remotely, or maybe you can connect to a machine with a service running on AWS or Azure, Microsoft Azure. So these are basically three features which are right now built into the Docker desktop installation. So what we are going to do, look into today is basically the centerpiece where your Docker CLI is talking to AWS directly. So let me switch a little bit to Amazon in ECS, and let me briefly just explain what Amazon ECS is. So basically when you start your container development on your machine and you need to move your workloads to the cloud. So ECS would be the basic thing to start with, rather than going to Kubernetes or some other stuff which are difficult to learn to start with. So the simplest thing to start your journey with container on the cloud is ECS in this case. So ECS is basically you're running your containers on a managed service which is hosted by AWS itself. So basically, if you look on screen, ECS is a managed service which is available. And basically, you have two types of launch types over there. Either your workloads, which is running as a container, can run on EC2 instance, or it may run on the AWS Fargate. So AWS Fargate is basically the serverless feature which is available in ECS. So you don't have to take care of that infrastructure piece which is running your containers on that. And then the Docker images which you have built, it can be stored on AWS itself. That's the ECR, which is called the Amazon Elastic Container Registry feature. So like the Docker Hub, which is a feature built by Docker, there is a central repository where you can upload your images on AWS itself. So these are some of the benefits of ECS. Basically, ECS gives you the feature to scale your workloads elastically, and then integrate with many of the AWS services like IAM, CloudWatch. So these are things which are built in by default, and the integration is seamlessly possible over there. And then basically using the AWS SDK, you can basically call those APIs and you can directly interact with ECS service also. And you have all the security features which are built in AWS directly available with the ECS. So when I talk about ECS, basically there is a cluster which is responsible to run your workloads on AWS. So that cluster is the infrastructure piece which you're talking about. And then there is a task, which is basically a definition how you define how I want to run my containers. And that instantiation of that task is basically a service which is running in your cluster over there. So these are basically main three pieces of Amazon ECS. Now, if you have worked on the ECS through the AWS console, you might be knowing that you need to log into the AWS, go and create a cluster, define a task over there, and then run that service. So for a beginner who is just starting with ECS, this is kind of a daunting task, I would say. So how about a feature which, like, you're already working with Docker and you know the basic commands? Let me remain in that same workflow and let me try to deploy that container which I have developed on my machine locally onto ECS cluster. So that's how we are going to see what happens now. So let me just switch to my CLI. So whatever source code I am showing over here, it's there on a GitHub repo. I will share the repository later. And am I audible with all this? Okay, go ahead. I don't know how this close should be. Hello, yeah. So what you see on my screen is I'm on a terminal. And if you see, I execute AWS S3 LS. So basically, I am authenticated to my account over here. And you see on my screen, I have just executed a command which basically lists all the S3 buckets. So that means my CLI knows how to talk to my AWS account. And in this repo, there is basically a sample application, which is a Python-based application. It's a kind of giving you a UI where it will kind of talk to Redis database at the backend. So basically, if you see on my screen, I have defined a Docker Compose file, which is the way you work on your local development environment. And when you start with the multiple containers, Docker Compose is the feature which you use on Docker Desktop to run multiple containers. So if you see in my definition of services, there is a front-end service, which is basically a Python-based app UI, which is there. And there is another service which is basically using a Redis thing. So the way I run it on local my machine is that I just say, I just executed a command Docker Compose up. So basically it's going and spinning up all the services which I defined in the YAML file, and it's running locally on my machine. And if you see, it's available on localhost at the port 5000. Oh. So if you see, I just access that app on locally on my machine. And if I hit the timestamp button, it's basically capturing the timestamp and writing it to the Redis database. So this is just a sample application which you may kind of in your development environment would do work along with something similar. Now you feel that, okay, it's working fine on my local machine. Now it's the time to move to the cloud. So the command which I executed is Docker context ls. And if you see, there are multiple contexts available on my machine. So one, at the top, if you see, I have created AWS Meetup, which is basically I have passed the credentials to the Docker CLI to talk to my AWS account. So it has been created already. So that's the first thing. And if you see, there is a default context, which is basically talking to my Docker engine locally on my machine. So if I need to switch the context, which is like, I want to say, okay, my Docker client, you talk to AWS instance, my account. So how I will do is that I will just say Docker context, use AWS Meetup. So if you see, there is an asterisk mark at the top, which says basically my context now is set to AWS account. And how you create is that you just use Docker context create. I just forgot the command. Let me just Sorry about that. Docker context create ECS. Yeah. So the command is basically Docker context create, and I want to talk to ECS. So I'm saying Docker context create ECS, and I'm just giving a name over there as test. So basically, if you see, it will search for your AWS profile, whatever you have set in your machine, or there is a way to pass token credentials also. So I've done all this setup on my machine already. So that's what you see on the screen. There is a context called AWS Meetup. Okay. And now what I'm doing is that I'm just doing Docker Compose up. Okay, so what it will do is that when I execute that command now, and my context being pointing to my AWS account, it will start to spin up those services in my AWS account specifically. And basically it's doing certain things over there. So starting with, it will try to deploy those create services. The font is basically on a white background, so you are not seeing it. So basically, it will start creating all those networking features, what is needed for the services to talk to each other. It will create those log groups. It will define the task. It will define the services, basically create a cluster for you, and then deploy this workload onto the ECS cluster. So at the back, just the same command which you executed locally on your machine, Docker Compose up, is being used with the ECS cluster also. So if you see, I am not logged into my AWS console here. I'm just staying in the same workflow which I was using for my Docker development. And basically, it's creating all those stuff at the back for you. So what happens is that when you execute the Docker Compose up, basically it turns using that Docker Compose feature which is there, the specification, it translates the Docker Compose YAML file to a CloudFormation template at the back. So that CloudFormation template is basically being deployed right now into your AWS account. So let me switch to my AWS account. And if I go to ECS, so if you see on my screen, there is already a cluster which has been created for me, and it's called Demo App. I didn't log into my AWS account previously to create this one. So right now, the Docker Compose feature, which is having integration with ECS, only supports Fargate as the launch type for now. The other launch type of EC2 is currently being developed. The specification is just being built around that. And right now, the cluster has services, the tasks defined in it, everything. And let me switch to this one. So it's right now creating that backend service, which is basically that Redis database, which is being spinned up for you. So what happens is that at the end, after all the stuff is set up, it will give you a URL, which is basically hosting this web application for you. So right now, it's creating those load balancers and the listeners and other services for you at the back. So while that gets deployed, any question I can answer for you right now. Yeah, so there's two ways. When you start development, Docker Compose gives you a way to push your images to Docker Hub. So right now, when I pass that YAML file and it turned into a CloudFormation template, my reference was to Docker Hub. So right now it's being fetched from the Docker Hub, but there is a way you can override that and use Amazon ECR also. Yeah. Yes, that's a YAML file. The specification and the features, everything is basically YAML. Yes. So right now, when I execute the Docker Compose up command, it does all the hard work for me. So that security group and everything, I'll show you how that looks. So by default, it uses the default VPC for you. And on top of that, it uses the subnets which is available and creates the security group as per the service which you have defined over here. Yep.
Can this be used like for CI/CD, like production stuff? Like the same concept, you change the context to the AWS context and then just look and compose up. Is that meant for that, or is just only meant for local development?
I wouldn't recommend it for production right now. I haven't personally used it in a production environment, so I would advise you to do it. I have done it to learn the ECS features, how that CloudFormation template is developed for a particular set of services, what I developed locally, and then export that template, CloudFormation template, and maybe use that in your environment, but which is more comfortable for me in my personal case.
Another question is, how does the communication happen between the ECS services, basically? What really happens behind the scene that allow these two services to communicate?
So there is a feature called Cloud Map in ECS, which does all the inter-service communication for you. So there is a DNS registration which happens to the Cloud Map. So basically, whatever services you define in your YAML file, it is basically having a DNS entry through the Cloud Map feature, which is there in ECS.
Thank you.
Can we customize the resources here? For example, I can log group, the load balancer,
Yes, so then you have to pass in certain AWS related features to it in the YAML file which I showed you. Right now, I didn't pass anything, but there are certain specifications which are specific to the Docker Compose, how AWS services should be defined in a YAML file. So you have to follow that specification, and it's pretty much possible.
I am new to AWS. I wanted to know end-to-end process for the container. Is it much more easier for me to understand end-to-end process using EC2 or Fargate?
End-to-end process. So if I am starting with my container journey and with all my experiences, EC2, you have to deploy those things in your environment, set up those, do all the patching work by yourself, just to run those workloads.
I'm not talking about maintenance stuff, but like, for example, I want to get it done faster. Is it Fargate or EC2?
It's definitely Fargate then.
Okay.
So if you see over here also, the service at the backend is a Fargate for you. So it spinned up a cluster, it deployed your services over there in that cluster. You're just using one command.
So if you want to do it faster on Fargate, if you want to learn, then EC2.
Yes. So let me show you over here. So right now the whole process is completed. And if I do a Docker Compose, so when I did a Docker Compose PS, is basically listing what services was defined in that YAML and how it is running right now in your AWS account. So if you see the second task which is there, it's exposing that on a specific load balancer DNS with all the port mapping done for you. So when I access that app locally, I went in and did a localhost colon 5000. So that whole networking stuff, creating the load balancer and the port mapping, binding and everything, it was done automatically for you. So if I just copy this one, and if you see, I have that same app running from my local environment to Docker ECS with the same command. So if you see the URL, what I'm using right now, it's a load balancer DNS, which is mapped to the same port which I had in the YAML file. So that's pretty much same. You use the same command to run it locally, and you have the same workloads running on AWS with a single same command. Yeah, that was pretty much a demo from my side. Any questions? Sorry? Yes, definitely you should do that, because that is going to keep running. And if I just do a Docker compose down, it should basically delete all the resources which are basically created by the same command. But before I do that, let me just show you what happened at the backend. So if I go to log CloudWatch, so if you see, there is a log group which got created, Docker Compose, and the same my app named demo app. So if you see, the logs are over here. And similarly, if I go to EC2 console, I can see the load balancer and all the networking stuffs which are available also there. So pretty much if you do the opposite Docker Compose down, it will tear down everything, all the resources which are created for you with the same up command. Yeah. Pretty much. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask, is your Docker authenticated with AWS? How do you authenticate this?
So yeah, so when I did a Docker context create, my CLI, I had set my credentials already, and the Docker daemon knows how to talk to my AWS account. So it will basically read that credentials, what you have set on your profile. Whatever profile you are currently actively using on the CLI, that will be used to talk to that specific account.
Okay, I have a question regarding the customization of things that you can do with this post endpoint to the ECS. ECS itself, you can like select the CPU limit, the memory limit, the VPC, for example, that question. So how do you do that with just the mobile?
So that's what I answered previously also. So the compose specification itself has a definition. If you need to customize it, there are certain parameters you define in the YAML file itself. Maybe I can show you the document. If you go to the Docker documentation, it's well documented. So basically, let's say you want to use a secret and you want to authenticate your, you want to fetch an image which you have stored on AWS ECR. So basically what you will do is that you will map that secret as a in between the service. And when the service spins up, it knows how to authenticate to your ECR registry. So yes, there are ways to do it, but you need to follow that specification, how it is defined over there. Yeah, it's part of the Docker Compose. So if you search for Docker Compose specification and specifically search for Docker ECS integration, you will get all the documentation around that.
Hello.
Yeah.
So basically, I myself am familiar with using Docker Compose.
Okay.
Basically, I want to know, does when we do Docker Compose to AWS ECS, can it handle volume persistence?
Yes, there is. So basically, if you define a volume section in your Compose file, it will create a EFS file system at the back for you when you use against the ECS.
Hello, okay. This is regarding the question about high availability. So typically my approach is I will start the process sequentially. So I want to know the different style or approach other than start the explore sequentially. And the goal is to make sure none of the current HTTP requests is being interrupted or communicated for the user request. Is there any other for the high availability?
So for first, for high availability, you will use the replica feature, which is there in the Docker Compose specification. And with the replica feature, when you deploy to ECS basically will use the blue-green deployment approach by default. And it will make sure that whatever the task is being executed and you do a kind of new image push, and it learns that there is a new image available. So whatever being processed at the backend using the old will remain alive using that blue-green deployment in ECS itself. Yes, blue-green, which is the by default available with this integration.
Okay, Sujay, we've got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sujay. That's good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You're going to multiple school guys in their hiring. So one there or
Yeah, sure.
awesome. That's hey guys, before we close it, we just want to share the QR code for feedback, guys. We always welcome the feedback for the community. If you have a new idea, if you want to share with us, please fill out the form. Let us know. We on our speakers talks. So usually we send it back to them. So if you enjoyed the talk, you have feedback as well. We want our speakers to improve as well. So please just spend few minutes, scan this QR code and help us with the feedback. Okay. And that's it. One last thing. Next month we will have it.
So we just got it confirmed with Marvin. We can confirm that we're going to have a little more bigger event come January with a recap of reInvent announcements and some special guests who will be part of the panelists as well. So we will have it in the same location and hopeful to fill in the full auditorium come January. So we'll announce the dates and the details soon once we finalize the panelists and the speakers. So yeah.
Awesome. And what before we talk about the deep racer before as well, we are still working on it. So keep an eye. If you don't follow us on Facebook, we are mostly active on Facebook and Meetup. So do follow us. And one last thing, because we want a new picture with the community. So if you all can come here, we have a here our photographer with a very cool cam. So let's take some high quality community pictures. So please, you can come over here.